I'm going to be doing such fun things on my new TV show.
Really? Okay.
And I'm going to have, I don't want to just write it because it will get off. You know what I'm saying? So I've like a paint thing. Yeah, just to paint.
Okay.
Wendy Williams' son says his mother isn't free, that she's being used, not cared for. That's the bombshell we're staring down right now. Kevin Hunter Jr. didn't whisper it into the wind either. His accusation erupted in public, just days after Wendy swept into New York Fashion Week, polished, propped up, and paraded in front of the cameras for Laquan Smith's show. This was her first major outing since she famously dubbed her assisted living facility a luxury prison. What the world saw: lashes long, makeup flawless, hair styled just so, surrounded by celebrities and nostalgia. What her son saw: a red flag waving. Because Wendy, insiders confirm, was only permitted to leave the facility with special approval. Her entire look pre-arranged, her seat chosen for maximum visibility, and paparazzi curiously already stationed outside. Publicists and stylists claimed this was her comeback. Her son called it a performance.
This is one of the most outrageous things I have heard in a long, long time, in a case that has been filled with...
We're not talking about the kind of performance that gets a standing ovation. Kevin Jr. says this was a tightly choreographed maneuver, engineered for everyone except his mother. Let's spell out the contrast. The Wendy beaming from the front row in September is the same woman who just days before told a reporter that the coterie, her high-end assisted living residence, is, quote, a dump. She didn't hold back. These are very ill people. That's not marketing copy for a retirement palace, and it certainly isn't a soft launch for a return to television. According to her, the so-called luxury is little more than a velvet-wrapped cage. Staff confirm she isn't allowed a cell phone, can't receive calls at all, and is only granted permission to make outgoing landline calls, which sounds less like medical care and more like some sort of control order. If you're wondering how the world's former queen of gossip ended up isolated, off the grid, unable to connect, you're not alone. But the official answers have only triggered more questions.
I feel like the Guardian has not done a good job of protecting my mom. As long as she has people around who are yes people, I know that she's not getting the help that she needs or getting better.
Sources close to the situation now claim Wendy's outings are never spontaneous, never normal, and never just for her benefit. They say she's only allowed out when it benefits others financially. If that sounds like conspiracy thinking, it's worth remembering that every appearance has coincided with press coverage, legal timelines, or some sort of public-facing campaign to prove she's fine. Her son doesn't buy the show, and he's not alone. There's a growing chorus from fans to former insiders pointing at the parade of expensive Tushy dinners, those highly photographed nights out in the city, often arranged by friends who suspiciously always seem to alert the photographers in advance. Wendy is walked to the window seat where she's visible from the street, flanked by her handler, her makeup artist, and whoever's currently managing the narrative. Every forkful, every wave, every stilted smile captured and blasted across entertainment media, as if to shout down any rumors that Wendy is suffering or worse, locked away. But what actually happens when the lights are off and the lens caps go back on? According to Wendy herself, it's not a party. It's more like being under surveillance in an upscale holding cell, she told a journalist. Again on record, that everything that I do is here in this room. She tries not to eat there, prefers to sneak out to restaurants when she can, but admits the outings are rare, conditional, and tightly controlled. Staff and insiders whisper that she's been forced onto the memory care floor, forbidden most of her possessions, and that any freedom she does have is only exercised in front of witnesses. Even her access to news is monitored. For a while, she wasn't even allowed an iPad until a judge signed off, and she uses it mostly to listen to herself, old radio shows, old victories, reminders of a time when she made the rules.
With the Argus, I've always spoken to her, and she's always wanted me to spend her money.
The official explanation for this ironclad control? The guardianship. Since 2022, Wendy Williams has been legally declared incapacitated, her finances frozen, her day-to-day existence managed by a court-appointed guardian named Sabrina Morrissey. We know this because Wells Fargo, her own bank, petitioned for the arrangement after her financial advisor claimed she was at risk of exploitation. According to court filings, several $1 million are locked in her accounts. The only way she can access her own money is with approval from someone she didn't choose, for reasons that have never been fully explained. Insiders familiar with the case now claim Wendy's rare appearances are orchestrated proof-of-life moments. The timing always matches a court review or a new legal motion. Her son sees a pattern, one he says is less about her well-being and more about someone else's bottom line. Meanwhile, the headlines do their usual job of muddying the waters. Some fans have accused Kevin Jr. of hypocrisy, pointing to his failed petition to become her guardian and to his own attempts to access her funds. Others say the guardianship is a public service, protecting a vulnerable star from everyone, including her family. But the truth is, this has become a battle royale where everyone claims to be fighting for Wendy, and yet somehow, Wendy remains invisible except when it suits someone else's agenda. Let's not forget the role of optics. Every time Wendy makes it to a fashion show or fancy dinner, there's a fresh batch of Instagram stories, tabloid write-ups, and a chorus of, "She's fine, see?" from handlers and so-called friends. Look closer at these nights. The restaurant always knows to expect photographers. Her seat is always in the best view. Her hair and makeup never less than perfect. At Tucci, an upscale spot in Manhattan, Wendy was spotted being helped out of a black SUV, guided to her seat by her bodyguard, with Max Tucci and Laura Geller leaning in, snapping pictures and reviewing images of her own face. One diner nearby reported her eyes wide and startled, which yes, can be explained by her Graves' disease. But it's also become a signature in paparazzi shots. There are always two Wendy narratives: the visible, managed, glittering icon, and the invisible, isolated woman who can only speak when someone else picks up the phone.
And by the way, the judge doesn't know what she's talking about. I mean,
by the way, there are a lot of people clamoring for Wendy to actually get back on the air and to have a show again.
When did this judge become Roger Ebert? I mean, I'm serious. Wendy Williams is a hot commodity right now. I can tell you from our Tubi documentary, it attracted a lot of attention. She's done interviews with major outlets.
Behind that glassy veneer, the real fights are uglier than anything that ever played out on her talk show. Williams has called her legal situation disgusting and her facility a luxury prison. Her complaints aren't just about comfort, they're about civil rights. Insiders claim she's been denied visitors for months at a time. Some family members say they haven't even been told where she is or how she's doing except through third parties. The judge in the case, Lisa Sokolov, wrote that Wendy has become more direct, even exuberant, but that her condition, aphasia and a disputed diagnosis of frontotemporal dementia, has worsened. Still, the law says guardianships are supposed to provide as much freedom as possible. Instead, Wendy's guardian remains in full control, with every aspect of her life signed off by someone billing up to $450 an hour, according to court records. The money question won't go away. Williams' estate is responsible for paying the lawyers, the guardian, and the lawyers for the guardian, with legal bills that have reportedly hit tens of thousands per month. Her own apartment on the memory care floor costs $25,800 every month. In 2024, Morrissey, the Guardian, sold Wendy's luxury Manhattan condo, reportedly at a loss. She also found new homes for Wendy's two beloved rescue cats, an act Wendy says she learned about after the fact. Somewhere in this maze, Wendy Williams, who once ruled daytime gossip with an iron tongue, is now referred to as the AIP, alleged incapacitated person, by the same legal system that once laughed at her celebrity coverage.
And I can't figure out, why is there a gag order in this case that Wendy can't talk about her circumstances? Why is the judge doing it?
That aside,
there is something
that's even
way, way bigger.
As this legal drama escalates, the list of characters with a stake in Wendy's fate keeps growing. Her former manager, her publicist, her ex-husband Kevin Hunter Sr., even her personal lawyer, Joe Tacopina. They've all circled the story, made statements, and in some cases made direct bids to manage her money or return her to work. Her publicist, Sean Zanotti, has denied the dementia diagnosis, saying, "This woman doesn't miss a beat," and has asked how much outlets are willing to pay for interviews with Williams. Her ex-husband went so far as to sue, calling the guardianship fraudulent bondage and seeking $250 million in damages. But that case has been derided as self-serving, especially since he stopped receiving nearly $40,000 a month in alimony when the guardianship began. Now, with the next round of court hearings on the horizon, the tension is only building. Friends and family are no longer united. According to sources close to the matter, family dynamics have splintered any effort to challenge the guardianship together. Wendy's niece, Alex Finney, says the family can't even call her, only she can reach out to them. Her sister Wanda claims she tried to become Wendy's guardian but was iced out. And then there's Kevin Jr., denied a shot at being guardian himself after the judge cited claims from Wendy's own financial advisor that she feared he might be after her money. According to sealed documents, Wendy allegedly warned her advisor, Lori Schiller, not to let her family, including her son, touch her accounts. Schiller was instructed to lock her accounts if something were to happen to her, and Kevin attempted to access her account information. It was soon after this that Schiller herself stopped being able to reach Wendy, and the spiral into legal intervention began.
About keeping me away from my money. This is not right. And you know this is not fair.
But just as quickly as the money rumors swirl around Kevin Jr., so do whispers that he's only repeating the same methods his father used years before. shipping Wendy to Florida, isolating her when she struggled with substances, cutting her off from friends and the outside world. One source familiar with the family history put it bluntly, he did it sloppy. The bank, meanwhile, cited these failed attempts to access Wendy's money as part of its push for guardianship, saying it believes she was being unduly influenced by her son and perhaps others. The records paint a picture of Wendy unresponsive, disoriented, barely able to write, but also show that she had signed over power of attorney to her son and an entertainment lawyer. When Wells Fargo said no, Kevin and the lawyer returned, demanding to withdraw $25,000 and that Kevin become her primary financial contact. The bank's red flags flew, the funds were blocked, and the court took control. Since then, every movement Wendy makes, every dinner, every phone call, every comeback at Fashion Week has unfolded under the shadow of someone else's approval. This isn't just another celebrity gone off the rails. Investigative journalist Diane Dimond, who appeared in the Lifetime documentary about Williams, says the guardianship system in the United States is broken, with an estimated 2 million people currently living under similar legal control. She notes that somebody on life row has more rights than a person put under a guardianship. The legal process is sealed, the decisions happen out of public view, and once you're in, you almost never get out. Wendy Williams' diagnosis, which has been publicly challenged by her own family and friends, is now both the reason for her isolation and the legal wall keeping her there. Her family's last hope, sources say, is that she'll be strong enough where she can speak on her own behalf. But every day that passes, the machine runs a little longer and the possibility of escape looks dimmer. All the while, the court drama plays out in the headlines. Wendy's recent appearances at New York Fashion Week, the dinners, the staged photo ops, they aren't evidence of recovery to Kevin Jr. He calls them leverage, not love. He says these so-called proof-of-life outings are being used to show the world a healthy, happy Wendy, when in reality she's behind locked doors, watching her own legacy unfold on screens she can only access with someone else's permission. And now, as new documents circulate and the next legal review looms, Kevin Jr. says he's ready to name names, to expose the people he believes are cashing in on his mother's name, while her voice is filtered, her movements managed, and her freedom remains.
They basically said that because she was drinking so much, it was starting to affect her headspace and her brain. So I think they said it was induced dementia.
Once Kevin Jr. spoke, the backlash began. We saw the comments split the internet like a tabloid headline. Half the crowd jeering that he was a greedy hypocrite looking to get his hands on Wendy's lockdown millions. The other half hailing him as the only one with the backbone to challenge a guardianship system that seemed designed to keep the money moving anywhere except back to its rightful owner. The air around this family is so thick with suspicion you could bottle it. Every voice chiming in online is either calling out a cash grab or warning that a grown son is about to get cut off from his mother forever. We're not talking about a simple family disagreement. We're watching the fault lines of Wendy Williams' entire inner circle crack open on a public stage. The cast of characters orbiting Wendy is almost as dizzying as the story itself. At the center, the court-appointed guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, is now facing open accusations of neglect and profiteering. Insiders claim she's paid up to $450 an hour to oversee Wendy's affairs. Yet, sources close to the family allege her oversight has left Wendy isolated, angry, and stripped of agency. Then there's Kevin Hunter Sr., Wendy's ex-husband, who's filed a lawsuit for a staggering $250 million, a figure that raises as many eyebrows as it does legal questions. His case describes the guardianship as fraudulent bondage, but it's hard to ignore the timing. His own alimony payments dried up the moment the court took control of Wendy's bank accounts. Meanwhile, publicist Sean Zanotti is rumored to have shopped exclusive access to Wendy around major magazines for a fee. Even her former manager and jewelry designer, Will Selby, allegedly used his close proximity for personal gain, while the documentary camera rolled and Wendy's signature necklace glinted on screen.
As long as she has people around who are yes people, the same thing is always going to occur where she would ultimately just find any excuse to be by herself so she can get back to drinking.
Let's talk about the money trail because it's everywhere and it never stops. Wendy's $4.5 million Manhattan apartment, a symbol of her hard-earned media empire, was sold under guardianship orders and not for a profit. The proceeds, insiders say, vanished into a maze of lawyer fees, medical bills, and guardianship expenses, with Wendy herself unable to authorize or even fully understand the transactions. The court-approved guardian has the keys to her bank accounts, her real estate, her contracts, and the very schedule she's allowed to keep. According to legal filings, every outgoing payment, from the $25,800 a month for her memory care suite to the 5-figure monthly retainer for Morrissey's own legal defense, comes straight from Wendy's dwindling estate. Meanwhile, Wendy's name, face, and story are still being cashed in on, even as she sits in a locked room, unable to answer her own phone. Her likeness floats across new documentaries, rumored reality pilots, and every speculative magazine piece that prints her purple chair and her catchphrases next to dramatic headlines. Joe Tecopina, celebrity attorney and self-declared advocate, went on national outlets to call the guardianship disgusting and unjust. He didn't mince words. "Get me in front of a jury for 5 minutes and I'll get the quickest verdict of my life," Tacopina declared, a statement that echoes the outrage of millions of viewers who wonder how a woman famous for asking everyone else how you doing could end up muzzled and marooned in her own legal system. All this drama, all this money, but what about Wendy? Kevin Jr.'s claim is simple and impossible to ignore. Everyone around her is making money, while Wendy herself can't even call her own family without permission. For 3 years, Wendy's assets have been frozen and her freedom negotiated away in closed-door hearings. When she does leave the facility, it's always as part of a supervised media event. Her spontaneous dinners at Tucci or front-row sightings at Fashion Week coincide with legal filings, tabloid exclusives, or a sudden surge in online discussion about her health. We see the old team, stylists, handlers, friends who double as managers, hustling her to the window seat, fixing her hair, whispering reminders, while photographers wait outside, tipped off by insiders who always seem to know when a headline is needed. Each event is dissected by the gossip world, but the reality is blunter than any PR spin. The receipts show the money keeps moving, the cameras keep flashing, and Wendy herself remains in a perpetual state of supervised limbo.
And looks at Wendy and says, "You know, you had a great career. Your career is over. It is never coming back. You're done." Why would a judge?
Insiders claim the people around Wendy aren't protecting her, they're protecting their paychecks. We keep hearing that phrase, repeated by former producers, distant relatives, and lawyers who aren't afraid to speak off the record. Every proof of life appearance, every glossy photo op, every carefully managed outing is now scrutinized for signs of stage management. It doesn't help that Wendy's rare public calls, like the one to the Breakfast Club, are peppered with reminders that she has no idea what pill she's being given, that she still can't answer incoming calls, and that the only time her family is allowed to hear her voice is when someone else decides it's convenient. Even the lawsuit against Lifetime over her documentary has raised suspicion. Is it really about dignity, or just another way to flex control over her narrative and keep a stream of settlements and licensing fees flowing? We can't ignore the cold logic behind these moves. Wendy's brand is still marketable, her public struggles make for ratings, and her unique, volatile charisma remains valuable as long as it can be packaged and managed by people with a financial stake. Industry sources close to the documentary say both her guardian and some members of her old management team quietly angled for payments and creative credit, each one justifying their involvement as a way to help Wendy, while the real help she asks for, freedom, privacy, the right to manage her own life, remains out of reach. The circle of trust is practically a revolving door. Even her family has trouble presenting a united front. We've seen Wanda Finney, Wendy's sister, claim she was promised a role as guardian, only to be shut out without explanation. We've heard her niece Alex insist Wendy's not the person shown in the documentary, that she sounds clear, focused, and wants family more than anything. The judge isn't buying it, citing medical reports and financial inconsistencies. But with every legal filing, every news article, and every concerned statement from people who profit by proximity, the whole situation begins to look less like a tragedy and more like a business model. Wendy's suffering, her confusion, her isolation, these are the raw materials that keep lawyers, managers, and guardians employed, all while her own bank statements shrink.
And then what's the stuff that's happening to Wendy Williams? Do you think this is all connection to?
Of course!
The irony isn't lost on anyone who's followed Wendy's rise. The host who once built her empire by exposing the secrets of hip-hop royalty, whose fearless commentary made her a household name, is now a case study in losing control. Not to substances, not to illness, but to a system that profits by keeping her in the role of an alleged incapacitated person. The question isn't just who's telling Wendy's story, it's who owns the rights to her voice, her image, her future. As we watch each new headline flicker by, as the lawyers trade statements and the family squabbles grow public, we're left with the sinking feeling that recovery has become a business plan. Every smile, every staged outing looks less like recovery and more like revenue. The court tightens its grip, the guardians defend their decisions, and the money flows. Even Wendy's famous "How you doin'" now echoes with the subtext, who's really answering and for whom? Kevin Jr. says his mother's being used for profit, but as the court tightens its grip and the cameras keep flashing, the question hangs in the air. Whose story is Wendy really living now? Her own or theirs? What do you think? Is this about protecting Wendy Williams or protecting everyone who gets paid to keep her story going? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay sharp, stay skeptical, and remember, in the world of celebrity scandal, the truth is always just beneath the headlines.